And we're back from break. Well, Heidi, thank you again for connecting us to James Earl. It was so great hearing his story, and I love the fact that he works education and works with young people. That really makes a big deal.
Oh, yeah. He's really doing great stuff in Houston.
Well, and today, actually, thanks to you, we have a double dose, or rather triple dose, of visual arts going on today. Tell listeners who we have on the show.
Well, it's always fun to introduce a dear friend and, dare I say, one of my favorite artists of all time. We have on the show today McKay Otto. He's a contemporary artist. You're going to hear all about it. And with him is his friend, Luis Puro, who is the executive director of the Rockport Center for the Arts, where McKay has a solo show that's about to open. Luis, McKay, welcome to the Houston Hour.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Oh, well, let's start with you, McKay, because I think people will immediately recognize your voice. And you had a studio here for a long time that is now occupied by the beloved glass artist, Susan Plum. Did you leave some good energy in that space?
She brought the good energy. I looked for years for someone to take over that space, and Susan showed up.
Oh.
She's wonderful.
She's just about as mystical as you are. So you are no longer based in Houston, although you come here all the time. Where are you living now?
I'm blessed to be in the Texas Hill Country, a little town by the name of Wimberley. It's weirder than Austin.
I don't think it's weird. I think it's beautiful. McKay has a giant house on a sprawling property where you'll see all kinds of interesting animals, including white deer, and there's art inside and outside. And he's done something that I always recommend that artists do, which is trade your art with other artists. And you have some art by some of the most important artists that are out there, and they have yours too. And it's just feels like a total vacation to be visiting you. And when you're not in Wimberley, where are you often?
Santa Fe.
Where all the cool people are. And Luis, what about you? Tell us about you. You're based in Rockport.
Yeah, I live in Rockport. I've lived there for the past 8 years. I moved to Rockport, in fact, to accept the position of executive director at Rockport Center for the Arts. Before that, I was living in the East Coast in a little town called Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, The Office. Everybody knows that show.
Absolutely.
But I was working in a different field. I really came from the private sector to the nonprofit sector. I was in biotechnology there, and I traveled all over, the world and the United States for my job in biotechnology. But I'm really happy living in Rockport because I always wanted to have a leadership role in an arts organization, and I was able to achieve that before retirement. And I'm really excited to be here on this show and to talk about everything that's happening in Rockport, but also the work of McKay Otto, who is a brilliant artist.
So the Rockport Center for the Arts, tell our listeners about what goes on there.
Well, back in 2017, I know Houston was terribly affected by Hurricane Harvey, and so were we. In Rockport, actually, the center of the storm went through Rockport, Texas, and it destroyed our old facility, which was a Victorian-era home that we turned into galleries and classrooms. And since the storm, we raised about $13 million.
Holy cow.
To build a true center for the arts, a multidisciplinary center for the arts. So we constructed 2 buildings. One is 14,000 square feet. It has 5 exhibition spaces, one of which, the largest one, which is the H-E-B Gallery, which is where McKay is going to have his solo exhibition. And then it also has 5 learning spaces. We have a wonderful sculpture garden that has the works of famous artists such as James Searles, and
Oh, he's a friend of mine.
he's a great guy, Jesus Morales.
Oh, yes.
Lots of assets by him and other artists. Another Texas artist from San Antonio, Danville Chadbourne,
Of course.
just to name a few.
Oh, yeah.
And then opposite the Sculpture Garden and the Center for the Arts building, we have a conference center, the Rockport Conference Center, which we affectionately call The Rock. And it's an 8,000 square foot space that has allowed us to expand into the performing arts and the culinary arts, which makes really the Rockport Center for the Arts the very first multidisciplinary arts organization in the Coastal Bend.
Oh, my goodness. I love that. And I guess they didn't doubt their decision to hire you out of the corporate world when you can raise $13 million. My goodness.
I didn't know that I could raise money that way. I mean, it just sort of happened. Everything that we have done there has been done with love and appreciation for our community and our visitors that come from all over the state of Texas. And of course, built for wonderful artists like McKay so they can have wonderful exhibitions, and we create new opportunities for all of these artists and our patrons.
Well, I know artists love to exhibit in really beautiful spaces. And so yours is probably better suited than a Victorian house space would have been.
Absolutely. Every space in that building was designed with a purpose in mind. The Performing Arts Center, which is called Kemper Hall, was designed with that in mind. The HEB Gallery is a gigantic space. It's like a huge box and is going to allow McKay to bring some of his most sensational and large pieces of work that I'm sure he'll talk about during the course of the show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like we should get to that, but I don't even know where to start. I'd love to talk a little bit about what you're known for with your work before we get to the specifics of what you're going to be exhibiting in this show. You have style that's very distinctive. People recognize it right away because of its ephemeral quality. Can you talk a little bit about what your work looks like?
Oh, gosh. Hardest question in the world, talking about your own art. But I've been on a quest to free two-dimensional painting from the two-dimensional and capture, in essence, the ethereal, which I didn't understand really when I first approached it. But over the years, and now I've got paintings that are 25 years old, my mentor always told me, she said, make sure they hold up. So I worked with chemists and made an entirely acrylic artwork.
Well, your art, I think, is really known for its ephemerality that comes from whether it's a sculpture or a work on canvas that has sort of thing that you kind of look past or kind of look into, which is achieved. I know how you achieve it, but I always tell artists, don't give away your trade secrets.
It's a mystery.
It is. They are very mysterious, and you kind of look at them and go, what am I looking at? And you kind of get lost in their depth. And then they have this quality, which is you use a kind of phosphorescent paint, and there's a quality when it's dark out and you turn the lights out where they glow, and they take on a whole new life in that state, and they're very meditative. You really can get lost in them in the way, if you think about the old like geometric psychedelic works from like the 60s where you can stare sort of at them and things sort of move around and shift, and it's kind of like that in a way, except there's less.
Less is always more.
We have a work of, I don't represent McKay, but I do regularly appraise his work. I'm a credentialed fine art appraiser, and I do regularly handle his work, and sometimes I have some of his primary market art in my gallery, which I do now, and it is for sale and run on over. Sometimes the work has a word that you can't see during the day, but at night it finds its way out, and that's pretty exciting.
It's a mystery. Inside these paintings, if you'll spend enough time and be quiet enough, they're quiet, they're soft, you'll find yourself. It's about that journey within. We live in a world where everything is just so fast-paced, immediate, and I'm trying to give those moments where you can find yourself.
Well, I think your art is really great for that. I am fortunate to have been a guest at your house on a number of occasions, and your house in Wimberley has 5 guest rooms, and I've made a quest to stay in all of them, and they have lots of art in all of them, but they all have your art in them too, and I've tried to see when they stop glowing, and I've never been able to find out because I always fall asleep, but they have this really neat quality that I've never seen before, and when we've exhibited the work in my gallery and we have to turn the lights off and show it at night to show what it really does, people are looking for the outlet, and it's like it's not plugged in.
There's no gimmick.
And it's not gonna run out of batteries either.
No.
We were in your studio, and we were there after dark, and it gets very dark out in Wimberley at night, and we were in your studio and everything was glowing, and it was like exciting, like a fun house is, it was really pretty cool.
I'm not a young guy, and I always wanted to be Superman when I was a kid. I'm a Superman nut. And one day I had the opportunity to pick one paint, and I came out of the art supply, and it was with this glow paint. The quest was to use it the rest of my life. And so almost 95% of what I work on incorporates that. So when you cut the lights out, there's that surprise. Now I've gone one step further, and the show in Rockport, opening real soon, incorporates legacies. People in the Rockport, South Texas area that have contributed to the Arts Center, contributed as artists. I've chosen people like Madeline O'Connor, Jesus Marolis, Estelle Stair. She had the great gallery and a legend in Rockport. A rancher by the name of Robert Hewitt. These are just some of the people that I'm working to create the memory. Faces are lost in time, and I've come up with my process of bringing this energy back into the room, into the dialogue.
I love the way you talk about that.
So it's a big part of the show that's happening in Rockport.
And how big is the show?
The space is a little over 2,000 square feet, the HEB Gallery.
That's big.
When we were designing the space with our architect, David Richter, what I told him was I want a really large gallery that has volume, a lot of volume on the walls, so that artists can bring very large paintings and they will look really good. They won't look tight, because a lot of spaces, they have very short ceilings, and I wanted these ceilings to be very, very tall. And the HEB Gallery is a very unique space. The finishes are very industrial design, so we have concrete floors, museum rated 5 walls painted in a PPG color that's called commercial white. So everything that you put on those walls looks really, really exciting. And I'm really excited about the way McKay's show looks, because it just really is going to stand out. When people walk into the gallery, it's going to really stand out. And then above in the ceiling, we have a deck, and it's a metal deck. The building is constructed of CMU block and steel I-beams. We accepted a $5 million grant for disaster recovery from the Economic Development Administration. And one of the promises we had to make is that we would build a building that would withstand the next 100-year storm.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and so it's going to be there even after we're not. And I'm excited about this exhibition because we're also going to be able to do something unique, as you were talking with McKay about how these paintings come alive and with light when it's dark inside of the room. So we're going to be able to deliver on that experience.
Oh, I can't wait.
And then on top of that, the gallery is being retrofitted with sound so that we can play music. And I'll let McKay tell you what he wants to play when it's happening. So
Tibetan bowls.
Well, you know what that makes me think of. Can we talk about your installation in Johnson City? Tell our listeners what that is.
Well, there's a silo, and it took me 2 years to do 7 paintings. They're hung at 7 foot high, 7 paintings based on the 7 chakras. We're teaching children to look within and colors. What are the colors of the chakras? What's the significance of that? Chakras. And it's a permanent installation in a 40-foot high silo. And
It's called the Silos of McKay. Yeah.
Yes.
And this has a sound component as well.
yes, Tibetan bowls.
Yeah.
The children are learning about the sound, vibrations of their voice, their bodies. I mean, the silo vibrates.
Do the kids get to activate the sound, or is it already playing when they walk in? Or?
No, they activate it.
I
They
love that aspect.
participate. It's very important to have them ring a Tibetan bowl.
We have one in the gallery. Whenever we're feeling a little funky, we give it a ding, and it really resonates a long time, and it'll make you feel better in the way taking the time to breathe in a special way will.
We're planning a performance. We'll have a Tibetan bowl performance, and my friend Kimmy Rhodes is going to be coming up and working with me on this. She's Willie Nelson's right-hand person. She's right there on the stage with him. And we're planning for that the evening of the 14th. We're still working on it. And there's a good chance that Marcia Ball will join Kimmy. They're good friends.
Well, Louise, if someone is thinking about going to the opening, I'll be there. I'm very excited about it. Do you have some recommendations for where they might stay if they make a little road trip? How long does it take to get from from Houston to Rockport?
Well, it took me 2 hours and 40 minutes to come to studio today, and so it's not that far. In fact, we have a lot of patrons from Houston that have second homes in Rockport in an area called Key Allegro. It's a really beautiful area. And what I would say, well, first of all, let me just tell you when the show,
Yes,
dates for
let's
the
give
show.
all the details.
Might want to start with that.
Yeah.
So it opens to the public on Friday, October the 6th, and it has almost a month and a half run. The opening reception with McKay is going to be the following Friday, which is the 13th of October. So like I said, the show it's probably like a 1.5 to 2 month run, I want to say. And people can stay in area hotels that are very close to our facility. I highly recommend the Marriott Fairfield, which is there. And also we have a Hampton property and then a Quinta, which people there call La Quinta. They call it La Quinta. I love hearing people say that. But anyway, those are like 3 of the largest properties that we have. There's also the Inn at Fulton Harbor, which is in Fulton, Texas, our sister city. And that hotel is right on the water on the harbor. And then there's other smaller properties as well. The Lighthouse Inn is another property that's right on Aransas Bay. And it's just nice for people to come and get away and just, your heartbeat goes down a few notches when you get over the Causeway Bridge into Rockport, Texas. I love living there. The people are so chill. And my job doesn't make me chill or cool, but, that's another story. But there's also great restaurants. There's one right near the Arts Center that we love. It's called 495 Chesapeake Eats. It's called that because the food influences, of course, from that region of the country and around Baltimore, the 495 Beltway Loop. There's another one right across the street from the conference center. It's called Latitudes, and you can sample some really great coastal cuisine when you're there. And the Arts Center visitation is free. There's free admission. Most museums, as you know, have they charge admission to get in, or you have to be a member. We have a very large membership program. We have about 1,200 members. But because we're able to fundraise through events such as the Rockport Art Festival, we've always been very proud to be able to keep it very democratic, and the doors are open for anybody, any age, any person coming, whether they're local or visiting. And it's going to be a wonderful experience for people from the Houston area to visit McKay in Rockport.
I'll be there on the 13th. I think I'm staying for 2 nights. Well, we should probably talk just for a second about your other work that you're known for in sculpture. We haven't mentioned that yet. Can you talk about your sculptures a little bit? You've been making them a long time, but they've changed, but in some ways they haven't.
Thanks to 2 new hips, not being very mobile, I just can't stop making art. And during that period, I resorted to small boxes. If you go back in my history, you'll see a lot of boxes early on. But I'm stacking them. They're wall assemblages, and they have a uniformity. I use black matte paint to bring them to a uniform consistency. But in these, I've incorporated a lot of my light boxes. My paintings are really light boxes. Light boxes without an electric card.
Yeah, that's right.
It's all about light for me.
We've got one hanging up in my gallery right now. If you're listening, run over to my gallery, Heidi Vaughn Fine Art, and you can see a beautiful example of his light boxes.
I have 2 of those light boxes, and one is super exciting. I just recently hung it because the people from Glass Tire were in Rockport filming, and then I had a little party for them at my house, and they got to see.
Nice. We love Glass Tire.
Yeah, we love Glass Tire too. We use Glass Tire a lot for promotion of our exhibition, so you'll be seeing a lot in Glass Tire about McKay if you haven't already. So anyway, they came and I showed them these little boxes, and one hangs on the wall, and it's so translucent, and it changes depending on where the sun is or where the moon is.
They change.
That time of the day, and one has a little magenta ball hiding inside, and then when you go to the other side, it's like a lime green yellow ball, and people just stand there and they can really look at it for a long time, and they don't say anything. They seem to understand it without you having to say anything about it.
That's the magic behind McKay's work. It's very rewarding. If you just wait a little while, you'll get a nice reward.
Thank you.
Well, and since we're now getting close to being out of time, McKay, let people know where they can get a hold of you, your social media handles, your website. Where can they learn more about your art?
McKay Otto Art.
How do you
.com.
That's McKay
OTTO.
.com. There you go. And how can they learn more about the Rockport Center?
Well, people can visit us online at rockportartscenter.com. We do have Instagram, very active Instagram and Facebook pages. Rockport Arts Center is the handle for both. And people can learn about everything that we're doing, including the visual arts program, our public art program. I would encourage people to stay tuned through the website so they can learn more about what's coming in the future. They can also just call us at 361-729-5519. We are not the kind of town that hides behind a computer and sends emails. We are very connected to our people and our patrons, and we love to answer the phone. People come in the office. The Brown Foundation Executive Suite. Thank you, Brown Foundation, for underwriting my beautiful office suite. And they come in and they sit down and they chat with us. And a lot of them are artists, a lot of them are patrons, and it's really wonderful to have that experience and to have that beautiful space that faces the water. There's actually a terrace in our building that faces the water. You can go out there and really enjoy the fresh air, the sun, all of those kinds of things. But I did want to add that people can experience McKay's show in two ways. With the light on, when you see the beautiful paintings and sculptures on the walls. But we're going to be able to provide a different kind of experience by completely darkening the space, closing the doors. There are some light monitors above the HEB gallery, but those are all going to be blacked out so that people can really experience the paintings at night. And I think it's going to be really exciting. I know McKay has wanted this for a long time, and I'm just so happy to be able to deliver it. And by the way, we've been working on this show for 2 years. Everybody that meets McKay falls in love with McKay.
Yeah.
That's true.
And I was no stranger to that experience as well when I first visited him in Wimberley. We met at a dinner party in Corpus Christi through friends, and he was just such an exciting individual, and we just exchanged numbers, and we have been connected like almost on a weekly basis ever since then.
Well, I talked to McKay before this interview because he knows a lot of super Academy Award-winning type people, and I said, we love to name drop on the Houston Hour, and he said no. So we did not.
Gentleman, yeah.
But if you come to the opening with me, we'll make
you might
it
see
happen.
some famous people there. You never know.
I think you might.
Flying in for the weekend.
I think you might. So anyway, it was such a pleasure having you both on. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Heidi.
you.
Thanks for joining
Thank you,
us.
Mr. McKinney.
Oh, my pleasure. We're going to hand it over. Take care, Houston.